All right. You want to do the intro this time?
8 minutes of preamble.
Well, that's all
Yes,
three
okay.
things.
The reason this came about is because I watch a lot of Sky Sports, especially the golf, and you get peppered with adverts. There's adverts every 20 minutes, 30 minutes with the golf. And I was getting peppered with a lot of Apple adverts for whatever reason. And I had two adverts that stuck out to me. And one of them I liked, but struggled to watch multiple times. And one of them I really liked and was happy to watch multiple times. And I think it's maybe interesting to discuss why.
I haven't seen either of these yet, so we'll see.
Yeah, this is
See if
good.
I
This
can
is a
pick out
blind
which one.
watch. Yeah.
Don't let me go. No. Don't let me go. No. Don't let me go. No, don't let me go. Don't let me go. Don't you ever let me go. Don't you ever let me go.
Okay.
Right. So that's one. And then you want to see the second one
Yep.
immediately?
Yeah, let's watch both of them.
How many times have I felt this good? Let me count 'em for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. How many times have I felt this good?
All right, so that's confirmed. The first one is the one you can't stand to watch a second time.
I just can't. Do you know what? I love both the adverts. I think they're both really well put together compared to what Apple adverts usually are, right? Which is like these glitzy, phone flying around, release things. When they do features on their phones like that, higher storage, cloud storage, and battery life, I think they're great because those are very realistic scenarios we've always been in, where you're going through deleting pictures off your phone, or you're trying to record something, and it's taking ages
it's
to
been
do.
one
And
of
that
the big complaints of phones, but especially iPhones, was always battery life, right?
yeah. And it running out, and the dad there trying to film his son, trying to cry chop the way through the blocks. I thought it's really good. I like both of them. My issue is that especially the song from the first one, I found so grating on multiple watches, and it made me wonder if when they made that, there was any consideration to repeated viewings. And you know what? I will admit that we've made a few adverts in our time for TV. At no point in the development process did I ever think, what happens if somebody watches this
Multiple
6 times in one sitting?
Oh, in one
I thought it was an
sitting.
interesting-
Oh, yeah, I guess because especially with the golf, if you're watching
It's on for ages. It's on for ages. Yeah, but even imagine a normal advert, and you're sitting down watching a soap, and it's in 4 parts, and you get 4 ad breaks, and that advert is shown 4 times.
Well, I mean, that's an interesting thing in general, right? Because now there's, I think, so fewer brands are advertising on TV
Yeah,
that you are more likely to come across the same ad over and over and again. Whereas,
especially on
10,
channels
20
like
years
Sky.
ago, right? There were so many more ads because that was where you
The
advertised.
fact that I've seen that Apple advert, the first one, was on every single ad break for golf, right?
Yeah, I could
Fucking
even by the end of that first watching, the song, it's that synthesized voice thing.
yeah,
was just,
auto-tune
kinda
voice. Yeah,
grating. It was an interesting departure though for me because Apple, for me, like you say, have always been
yeah.
much more
High
style,
polish,
less comedy, more and I've seen bits and pieces in the past where they've done remote working. They did a couple of videos around that where it was still very polished and looking almost like a TV show or something, but there was more kind of humor, and it was how people were working together and using the tools and stuff like that, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But usually their ads are much more like you say, a glossy phone moving around, or the old iPod ads where it's the rotoscope silhouettes dancing with the white chords and stuff like that. Really stylistic, style over substance almost. It's just going to look really cool. It's going to be really impactful visually. But there's not going to be much said or done. It's just going to be We'll make this
Yeah.
look really cool, and then here, or they do
Yep.
the other extreme of that would then be like the watches where they had the like emergency SOS stuff, where like so and so, like you just had like the emergency call, like
It's practically
the
it's
wearer
more
of
like
this
yeah,
watch
yeah.
has had an accident. Their coordinates
Yeah.
are da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Very understated, very subtle, like the complete opposite of an Apple ad, where it's like high end, visually stylish. Like,
But yeah, I thought it was interesting. I didn't think, but it makes sense that when I said Apple ads, that's what you were thinking, and then I showed you two pieces of like.
and the thing is, like the visual style is still very similar. Like the way that it's graded and the way it actually looks and shot is still very similar to other Apple stuff. Like it's still that high quality feel. It feels glossy. It feels maybe a little bit oversaturated. Like very
Yeah.
But the content of that ad is now very different to what an Apple ad years ago would have looked like.
Would have looked like, yeah, because this is like they've selected two features and they've put them in like realistic scenarios and then done them in a fairly Apple way.
Yeah.
Like I just it's interesting. I think it's. I'd be intrigued to know if it was like an in-house team that pitched this, or if.
I think that a lot of their stuff is in house. I think that's why they've been so. I mean, I might be talking out my ass, but I think that's why they've been so consistent with their style and stuff like that. It's because they have that in-house team that shaped it and owns it. Not to say you can't have that with an external partner who you work with over a long time, or if you just got a clearly defined style, then your production partners or your agencies can
with it, yeah,
work with it. But I think it definitely.
They did a slate of these as well. I didn't know that. iPhone 15 Plus, Miss You is a camera.
We always talk about having an emotional response on a story is going to be better than stats and figures. And none of that had a stat on about it. It didn't say how many hours the battery lasts. It just says it lasts longer. And and then the relatable moment is, well, I've got my son, or even if you're in the son's shoes, we've all been in that situation. We go to show somebody something and then it flops massively, even though it was working.
It doesn't work.
It was working perfectly 5 minutes ago, and now it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So massively relatable.
It's the crash zoom on the like the sister's face. I assume it's his sister or something that always gets me. Where like she's sitting there behind him and she suddenly realizes he's just not going to do it. Like, I think it's just funny because you've all been in those situations with like kids before. They're like, film me doing this thing. Like my cousin trying to kick a ball. I'm like, okay, he misses it. It's funny, right? The second one stuck in my head because I thought it was just. I think it's funny. I think it's a realistic scenario. I think the music and the editing, everything, like it is a really funny little short story. And the first one I liked, but like on multiple viewings, I was like, the synthesized like music really got to me. Like
there's definitely something grating about like the auto-tuney synthesized voice that just doesn't. Yeah, I can see why that would get annoying, especially like if you say 4 hours or whatever, and every ad break it comes on, like that would drive me nuts.
It's like, yeah, and you know what? It sticks. It's obviously stuck in my head. You know, I'd still never buy an Apple phone, but it obviously stuck in my head enough that I would shocking behavior. That I would bring it up, like, and I do think it's good. I thought it was interesting if they put any thought into whether or not repeated viewings of that would get like would get great in. Or how it would be shown, because they must not. I mean, they do know that it's going to be shown multiple times in multiple.
Well, I mean, it's a point though, because often a production team and the ad space purchasing team aren't the same thing.
No.
So, that is something that I don't think would come across many people's minds of, oh well, what happens if this person sees the ad?
Yeah,
5 times in a 2-hour period. Like, what's going to happen?
You don't think about it, honestly. You create the advert and you watch it multiple times because you're creating it. But when it's done, you take it as a piece of like single use. Yeah, like it's like you consume it once. But that isn't actually how ads work on TV.
Yeah. I mean, even ads where like there is additional layers. Like I think there was the British Heart Foundation one we looked at before, where there was like Easter eggs and stuff that you could see. But they're not planning on you seeing them almost back to back. They're expecting like you'll see it once and then you'll see it like the next day or
no, this was every ad break, I should have kept a tally. Every single ad break. I was like, oh my god, is that fucking advert again? I'm gonna have to mute it.
Oof. But yeah, I mean, to me the second one is definitely the stronger ad because it's less, there's less of a gimmick there, whereas the first one, I get it, it's funny and it's a relatable moment, and it's both of them have that at the core is like a relatable moment and a bit of a story going on, which is great.
Yeah.
And Whereas some of the stuff we talked about is much more. There's no real story there. It's just all style, and like the Lucas Aidley one we recently looked at. There's a very minimal story there of like two different groups coming to the same gym, but after that it's just all style and just joy and everything.
Yeah.
This one is much more. There's no real like. Yes, it has the Apple style of shot, but it's very simple, understated. It's almost invisible. The best editing is invisible sort of thing. But it's all about that story and that relatable moment of the kid not being able to do it, or you trying to decide what do you delete out of your phone. But where in the second one, it's the comedy comes from the situation. In the first one, the comedy comes from this kind of gimmick of putting the voices and the
and the mouth moving on the pictures, I think is good. They did that really, really well.
Yeah, I think it's funny, and it's like I get it, but it's that same sort of joke where like some jokes are great when you hear them the second time or the third time because of the nature of the joke, whereas others where it's a bit of a gimmick or it's a shock joke.
Yeah.
The second time you listen to it, it's lost its effect. So not only are the voices a little bit grating to listen to, but the joke is now worn off. It's not as amusing anymore.
Yeah.
Whereas that second one, the joke is still quite funny because you can still.
I chuckle to myself. It's on, and then it's always the kid at the end with the like lifting his leg up, and kick his way through it. Yeah,
it's like the punch in. It's the guy, the dad, where he's there with the phone still held up. He's like eating something because he's just distracted. Yeah. Like there's so many small little gags within the gag. It's perfect. Like that. If you watch that 5 times in 2 hours or a couple of hours, or whatever, one, it's less grating because of the audio issues which we've already discussed, but the gag doesn't get as old as quick.
No,
it will get old eventually. Obviously, every joke does if you do it to death. But
then after that, after you've consciously seen it and noticed it and taken it in, it just fades in.
Yeah.
Like, and it doesn't stick out, but in like the wrong way to me. Like, like in fact, the tagline at the end says "relax." It's iPhone 15 Plus. With the second one, I am. With the first one, I'm like, I'm not relaxed. That music's annoying me.
Your teeth are grinding.
I'm like, get Scotty Scheffler back on.
I for all of the issues I do have with Apple, and I do have Apple products, and I have also criticised Apple heavily in the past. There is one thing that is undeniable about them: is they are very good at their marketing.
They're brilliant at it.
Good.
They're the what do they call them? The best in class, basically, at doing it. When people come to you, they go, "Can we make this look like an Apple ad?" Like
it's so often a reference. And there was also a period where so many people were trying it became icky because it was just like everybody is trying to be the poor man's
Apple. It's almost
Apple.
memeified. Like, no, I mean they do it best because they pioneered it, but like people, it's so stripped back in some of those product adverts and so simple, so smooth that people think it is simple. Like, and it's not the same thing.
Simplicity is hard to do. Like, like you can always, whenever you get it in graphic design and stuff like that, where you're like going for a minimalist design or like interior design as well. Minimalism is really hard to do well because it just feels like, well, no, this isn't minimal. This just feels empty. So you have to have enough in there.
I'm a maximalist. I'm not a minimalist.
You just need to have enough in there that feels deliberate, and it doesn't feel like you've just run out of money or you've not thought about it.
It's the same with everything: video, web page design, like marketing, everything. Like there's to do it simple and to do it. Well, it's not simple. Like simple means two different things. Like simple in
visual.
What would it be?
Like how
in
it
visual
looks,
style, It does not mean simple in execution.
That's why I never use the word simple, because it immediately, whenever I use that word around clients in particular, they feel like it's gonna feel cheap, it's gonna feel empty, it's gonna feel whatever. But if you say clean, everybody likes that.
Clean, yes.
Effectively, though, they're synonymous. Simple and clean.
It is the same thing, clean,
but people like it and they think Apple. If you say simple, there's connotations around it that makes it feel like, oh, well, this is going to be cheap, it's going to be crap, it's going to be empty.
Or easy. You go at simple, they go a simple design, they're like, oh, so it won't take very long. You're like, no, that's not the way it works.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where Apple really have mastered it, and you see those imitations, and people very quickly realize how hard it is to do well. That first one, I liked it the first time I watched it, but even by the end of it, I was kind of getting irked by the voice, so I can definitely see why a weekend of golf would kill it for you.
Shocking. Multiple weekends. It's a good thing I love golf so much.
Well, I'll leave you to that one. I'm not joining on that. That's never going to happen.
Cool.
But on that note, we'll be back next week, and we'll have something less irritating to listen to, hopefully. Take it easy.